Did you know, we now offer channel memberships? You can also leave a tip. Your support is vital to the growth of this channel. Please be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you and enjoy the video.
TTRPGs are a fantastic way to cast off the stresses and tedium of our own world, and enter one where anything is possible. Sadly, these fantastical worlds are like flames to the nefarious moths known collectively as that guy. These are their stories, their RPG horror stories.
Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, and today we are going to be diving back into RPG horror stories. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 lately, and while it is kinda scratching the D&D itch, it just refuses to be fully scratched until I get some sweet D&D action, but unfortunately, it's hard to pull that off during the holidays with my group, so you know what? We're gonna read some horror stories. Also, at some point during this video, we will be announcing the 500 subscriber giveaway winner, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I have not read these stories beforehand, so my reactions will be genuine, and you will be finding this stuff out the second that I do as well, same time. So with all that being said, let's get to today's stories. Alright guys, our first story comes from user Doughboy and is entitled, Player Character IRL Mother Tries to Self-Inserts Herself into D&D Campaign, and there is a violence warning attached to this story. Hey folks, hope all are doing well today. This story is currently ongoing, and was made in hopes of getting suggestions on how to handle this issue while causing the least number of issues possible, as I am stuck between a rock and a hard place on this one. But without further ado, the story. To start, I, male 23 years old, am a first-time DM and hopeful forever DM playing 5e in a homebrew world loosely starting / based on the lost mines of Phandelver and Phandelver and below the Shattered Obelisk. Now for the meat and potatoes. I currently have 3 players for my level 1 game. For the sake of the story, we will call these characters Fairy, Wizard's mom, age 56, Wizard, son of Fairy, age 28, and Ranger, my sister, age 13, and Druid, female friend of both Wizard and Fairy, age 34. All of these players have never played before but love fantasy and science fiction like Lord of the Rings and Critical Role, except for Fairy, who thinks Lord of the Rings is stupid. I don't know why I've given you the bro voice OP, but I hope it turns out to work. I introduced the game to Wizard and Druid at Wizard's house, explaining the rules, the basics of how the classes work, and their abilities. With everyone eager to try it out, during this time, I'm pulling up Hero Forge and handing around my iPad so everyone can make minis for themselves that I will later print for our games, as I plan to play in person with handmade terrain, some of which even have lights built in and are motorized too. Okay, that sounds pretty cool, dude. You're the kind of forever DM we need, even if we don't deserve you. At this time, Wizard's mom invited herself into the group, grabbing the iPad without asking beforehand and making her own character. So to avoid conflict with her self-centered personality, I reluctantly hand her a character sheet and character question sheet, a custom set of 30 questions to help identify more info about everyone's character and establish expectations and hopes for the campaign, to distract her from the iPad long enough for everyone else to make a character. Fairy then quickly fills out the question sheet haphazardly with the most self-absorbed answers possible, stating how she has the strength to fall mountains, can fly with her giant human-sized fairy wings, and is the prettiest being to ever exist, how she owns a mansion with all of these lavish things, and the cherry on top is she wanted to be left by her mother on the doorsteps of a small cottage home to which she would run away from at the age of 10 because they are too poor for me, and would resent her mother wherever she was for leaving her in the dirt-filled place. She also didn't know anything about even the basic rules of the game. Oh my god. And these are all level 1 characters, right? Though I'm not pleased with how she's making herself into a main character, of which there really isn't a main character when it comes to D&D, I'm able to help her make a more modest, realistic character from the Feywild with all the details of her backstory. Then comes time to roll for stats, each of them getting 3d6 to roll, re-rolling ones, doing so 6 times, then assigning them where they please. Druid goes first, rolling well with 16, 18, 13, 10, and 12, and 9. Then Wizard goes getting not as good rolls of 9, 11, 12, 14, 16, and 17. Next is Pixie, whose rolls unfortunately very poor, getting 6, 9, 12, 12, 10, and 15. God damn. Hopefully you have a second character planned, Pixie. She then literally starts having a temper tantrum, kicking the table and crying about how unfair it is. Oh, you just switched fairy to Pixie. Okay, that's I for a second I was thinking there was druid, there's wizard, and you haven't said ranger, so I assume Pixie is fairy though. To hopefully stop her fit of rage, I allow her to re-roll them if she wants, getting much better number, but still not as good as the others two. So she starts talking down to everyone, making everyone else uncomfortable about how she should have been allowed to roll first instead of everyone else. So to avoid this, I take all the rolls average out of everyone's first roll, then second, and so forth until everyone now has the same average stats, which everyone is fine with. Besides Fairy, as she is not better than everyone else. Dear Lord, this is your friend's mom? I then asked them where they would rather play, at the game store in town or at my house, which I'm currently working on building a game room in, with lights, sound, and fog machines, as well as a couple other things though, not ready yet. All but Fairy agree to do it at my house once the room is ready, but in the meantime, do it at the game store. Pixie then demandingly offers what she thinks is a brilliant idea, mixing Pixie and Fairy again, of having the games at her dining room table. I tell her though it is a kind offer, with her 5 cats and very hyper large puppy who likes to eat plastic toys, it might not be a good idea with very expensive miniatures and papers. She's not happy about my answer, but huffs and continues to sell me on the idea. To distract her, I start to direct her towards Hero Forge again, but right before I'm able to add the final touches and poses to designing minis in Hero Forge for everyone, Fairy then starts telling me about how she can't wait to flay open Blood Eagle, don't look it up, everyone from shopkeepers to children, and how she read about other people doing it in their games. Oh my god, I can't even do the voice anymore. This is too ridiculous. She also asks me a bunch of other really messed up questions, making Druid uncomfortable, which she texts me, and I say to her it would likely take too long for you to do those things, and she drops the idea, but makes me question what kind of person she is. So the question is, how do I let Fairy know in the best and kindest way possible without hurt feelings that it would be better to play somewhere else besides her house and just the other 3 players? Since I'm a new DM, thanks in advance, and if you need clarification, I'm glad to give it. Alright buddy, one forever DM to another. Unfortunately, you have, in my opinion, only one way to salvage this, and you're gonna have to ditch Fairy. There is no future where a game that she's playing in is gonna end well for anybody. Like, I know that she's Wizard's mom, but Wizard is a grown-ass man, and you know what, he can let him deal with the fallout. And honestly, I still see that if you just don't invite Fairy because both her son and one of her friends is playing with you, you might end up losing all of your players except your sister. But here's the thing, you did mention that your town has a very nice game store that you can run games at. So what I would do, and even though this isn't something I do often myself, I would honestly say just go to the game store, put up a flyer saying looking for players. You can have meetings with them beforehand to vet them, but just make your first game with a bunch of randos. Because I honestly, if these are the people that you have to pick from of your friends, you are going to grow to hate this game. Again, whatever you do, you cannot continue this game if Fairy is playing in it, because it's just not going to end well. Our next story is from user Crimson Sucku, and it's entitled First Time DM Tries at a Homebrew World. Let me first say, I'm normally a lurker here, been one for a while and often listen to Crispy's Tavern. Hey man, you should go over and listen to Chimera Miniatures while you're at it, just saying. This may not be as bad as other people's horror stories, but I wanted to share anyway. I won't use real names or usernames, but if the DM happens to see this, oh well. So a friend of mine, Mike, was looking for a game for us to play. He happened to stumble upon a person that had a homebrew world based on the Project Moon game series. I don't know what that is, sounds interesting. He showed us a document about said campaign. We noticed some classes that were banned or restricted. We think, okay, that's fine. Mike then brought me, him, and another friend, Luna, and the DM into a chat on Discord. The DM was rather polite and willing to answer questions at first. He also mentioned he was a first-time DM after being up the player for so long, and was bringing in someone that was brand new to D&D. I tried to make the character with what I had, but the classes were too restricting. The backgrounds he made were mandatory, and he never bothered to put any proficiencies for them. So because I knew I wouldn't be able to come up with something, I politely told him the campaign wasn't for me, and I left. That's not all that happened, sadly. Mike and Luna stayed in longer than me. Luna was nearly done, or was done with her character, and Mike was nearly done with his. I only heard this through my friends after the fact, but Luna had made a joke about stabbing an NPC if she was unpleasant or sadistic. The DM didn't like that and threatened to kill her character if she hurt the NPC. I can understand if Luna wasn't joking, but that kind of behavior? As another friend of mine said, players are going to derail and maybe even kill an NPC. That's what improv is for. I think the not taking a joke and the DM being an ass about some other portion that was confusing to understand, Luna had left. Mike had a similar treatment before he left too. He wanted to play an artificer, only for the DM to threaten his character a harsh death if he used a certain spell, or tech in this case. A spell you get at the 17th level, I believe. After giving him what I think was pretty sage advice, he ended up leaving too. I'd almost feel bad for us leaving, but first time DMing and he chooses a confusing homebrew world with a brand new player? The only one I feel bad for is the baby player. Baby's first campaign should be fun, but confusing and dare I say toxic? Like I said, not as bad as some people's stories, just had to let it out. Well, Crimson Suck You, I agree. It definitely sounds like this guy wanted to dip his toes into the world of DMing, and that's fine. I had very limited DM experience when I started DMing D&D, when, I had played a little bit, but the thing is all of my players, for the most part, were brand new to D&D. Sure, when my wife and her friend joined the campaign, that's how I met her, they had a little bit more experience than the rest of us, but for the most part, most of us were all brand new to it. The whole reason we started playing D&D was we were watching an episode of Community where they were playing D&D, and we thought it looked kind of fun. And yes, I did start with a homebrew world rather than a module, but at the same time, I kind of crafted it out. I had a general idea of how things were going to go, but I had it in my head that the players could derail that at any moment, and I also did not limit them with what they could build. And in fact, my campaign went entirely off the rails, and I had to make an entirely new story when they more or less failed the tutorial. The thing to remember is that when you limit your players, you also limit yourself as a DM. One of the things I really enjoy with Baldur's Gate 3 is that there are very few things that are going to happen no matter what. It's like true D&D, it's like, look, this is the way it will probably go, but there could be a Hail Mary and things turn out completely different, and you have to prepare for that. And it just sounds like this guy might have been a D&D player, or whatever game this was you were playing, but it doesn't sound like those skills translated into understanding what would make a game fun. It sounds like he wanted to limit it to make things easier on himself, and in fact just ended up ruining it for everyone and himself, and didn't know how to pivot when somebody did something he didn't expect. And ultimately, that's his problem. He hated the players, not the game, and then he ended up with no players and no game. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the video, but I just want to let you know that we now have on my Patreon, available to all Patreon tiers, no matter if you're at the lowest or highest, Patreon exclusive videos that just can't quite be edited enough to be able to be YouTube friendly. At the same time that this video goes live on YouTube, there is another video it's all about a list of problems that an incel has come up with, about problems that everyone in the world faces, but how it affects men and women differently. And the results are, well, they're exactly what you'd think they are. And that is available on my Patreon to all Patreon members. So just if you're interested in seeing that, head on over. I have tiers starting as low as $3 a month, and you'll be able to access all of this, not only this video that I'm talking about now, but all future exclusive videos. With that being said, back to this video. Alright guys, our next story comes from user DifferentFerret646. It is entitled, Homophobic Dungeon Master Kills My Cleric in a Gross Way. I used to play D&D at a local game shop before I went off to college. The group I was playing with were people I knew from the shop and would occasionally play Magic with. They introduced me to D&D, and we ended up setting up a game. The DM was part of this friendish group, although I knew him the least as he didn't play Magic often, but he did play D&D. We have established that these people play D&D, alright guys? Just want to make sure you realize this. When we were making characters, we were allowed to basically invent our own gods to worship, as long as they weren't too OP or broke the rules of the game. So I created a goofy, flirty, neutral good, gay cleric. He has remained one of my favorite characters to this day. But when I showed the DM my character sheet, he looked it over, rolled his eyes, and dryly said, "A gay cleric, eh? Like you didn't think a cleric might find that kind of thing sinful?" I laughed and explained to him that his religion is cool with homosexuality. He seemed annoyed, but I guess he couldn't really say no after explicitly allowing us to create our own gods/faiths. Did you know this guy was homophobic? Because it kind of feels like you were trying to poke the bear on this one, but whatever. Sometimes you don't have to go full blown when just someone, when someone gives you free reign. It's like using the earmuffs, you know it's there, you don't have to celebrate it. He would, however, throughout the campaign, constantly have me get attacked by holy cultists, basically a slew of different monsters and DMPCs who fought to purify the land. They would attack my character for being gay. It got to the point of metagaming, as some of the cultists had no way of knowing my character was gay before attacking. The excuse was, their gods don't approve of homosexuality, so they sent their followers to attack you. Then of course the random acts of the gods that nearly killed me, like random smite lightning, as DM called it, or holy fire. It was insane, and I almost died so many times, and would have if the party weren't so well balanced that I was stacked to the brim with potions. The DM seemed obsessed. Like, I don't mind homophobic NPCs, as bigotry can add layers to the world building and impact of the story, but this was just lame and stupid. I will agree with you on that, OP. This is going too far. Nevertheless, the rest of the group was cool with my character, and none of us had actually died yet, so I stayed. But the fact that I hadn't died ended up pissing the DM off, as he would make rude comments like saying the party was full of min-maxers, and how we were abusing the point system by using our hard-earned gold to buy extra potions to survive the DM's homophobic murder hobo cultists. Well, the last straw that broke the camel's back was when our party got ambushed by a horde of orcs that surrounded us. This was an unwinnable scenario, and very obviously so. The orcs targeted me on my turn, obviously, and downed me immediately. They downed our party's wizard too afterwards. Paladin healed me, and we tried to run on our turn, but they all took opportunity attacks and basically TPK'd the party. Unfortunately, we weren't dead though. Man, I wish I had just died. We woke up in an orc/orog keep in the Underdark where we were all in chains. At this point, we were all kind of jaded IRL, as we all felt railroaded by that unwinnable encounter, but at least glad that we survived. We weren't expecting what would come next. A few orcs approached our party and Orc Chieftain said, "That one," as the orcs grabbed me, stripped me down, and the chieftain, according to the DM's, forces his big green cock up your ass. As the DM laughed, I shook my head and DM said, "What? You're gay. Don't y'all like it up the ass?" I told him how stupid that idea is, and that gay people still want to be able to choose their sexual partners and not have sex forced on them. I also mentioned that I am not gay in real life, since DM assumed I must be because of my character. DM then just flippantly ignored everything I just said and then began, I shit you not, calculating bludgeoning damage from the orc's penis. It was 2d6. It wasn't enough to kill me, so he had the other orcs rape my cleric too, until the bludgeoning damage was enough to kill me. So he goosed you. Got it. I was pretty checked out at this point. The campaign ended shortly after, and I just went home. I made up some excuses as to why I couldn't play anymore, and just avoided the game store so I wouldn't have to answer as to why I wasn't playing anymore. After about 2 years, I came back and met up with some of my old friends from the game store and got back to playing Magic and soon Yu-Gi-Oh! And then D&D again. But I sure as hell wasn't playing anything with that DM again. TLDR, homophobic DM targets, rapes, and kills my cleric off with a horde of orcs. Alright, so I'm not about to be like a social justice warrior going, you have to be okay with gay people. I am okay with gay people, but it's not my job to force my tolerance onto others. I believe that you're allowed to have whatever views you want, including bigoted ones, but in D&D, what you must always accept is that as the DM, it is your job to not take away player agency and to accept boundaries. Unless you have clearly stated that this is a hardcore descriptions, no fade to black, adult campaign with erotic elements that include non-consensual sexual encounters. Let's say you're going full Book of Vile Darkness with this one, and you've got the erotic role player's guide with you, and everybody knows this. You should not do what this DM did. In no way, shape, or form should you ever have a scene where one of your player characters gets raped to death by orcs. It is unacceptable. Also, assuming that someone is gay because they play a gay character, you know what? By that logic, I am a half-elf. Because the few times I get to play, I'm always a half-elf, so clearly that must be what I identify as. What a fucking piece of shit human that DM is. I mean, I am so sorry, Different Ferret. You deserve better. Different Ferret 646 deserves a different DM. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt my own story, but hey, it's time to announce the winner of our giveaway. This is, of course, the giveaway we had to celebrate 500 subscribers. Thank you all so much. And the winner of this giveaway is Charlie Atari 9238. Congratulations! Congratulations, Charlie Atari, you have won Pyrefly. Pyrefly is personally one of my favorite custom minis I've ever created. As such, I was a little surprised that there were not nearly as many entries this time. I don't know if that is because y'all just didn't like Pyrefly as much as I do, or if there was something in... I don't know. If you saw the giveaway and opted not to enter, please tell me why in the comments. Charlie Atari 9238, if you would just like to reach out to me either here, on my Instagram, my email is in the links. You can, any of those ways, just let me know within the next 7 days and I can get your mini out to you. We, of course, will be doing another giveaway at 600 subscribers and we're already well on our way there, so back to the video. Our next story comes from Dill Puckles. It is entitled, "My Mom Said I Could Play With You Guys." But of an old tale I was reminded of reading another post here. This must have been like 4+ years ago. I started a group in a friend's cafe. We would meet every Saturday and play while just hanging out. Usually the owner would join since she was a huge nerd. It wasn't unusual for us to get people coming up and asking what we were doing. Usually kids or young adults, asking if they could play, etc. 99% of the time, I would explain that it's unfortunately a full group. Maybe point them in the direction of an active group like a game store. And that was it. We'd have 1 or 2 people asking if they could stay and watch, and that was usually not an issue. And then there's this guy, really big, like 6'2", 300 pounds easily. He is awkwardly hanging out, just watching our table from like 30 feet, starting to give me bad vibes when a woman comes and they walk outside. Less than 10 minutes later, he's back inside and walks up to our table and just stands leering over one of the girls long enough for us all to look up at him, and he hits us with this gem. "My mom said I could play with you guys." At first I wasn't sure what to do, but after a moment I explained that unfortunately the game was full, but the TCG place down the road has Pathfinder Society and Adventurers League type stuff regularly. "I want to play with you though. My mom said you have to let me play." At this point, I started to put pieces together and am assuming he's special needs or on the spectrum or something, so I use my big brother voice and say, "Sorry, buddy, we only have so many spots. If you want to hang out with us till your mom comes back, we don't mind, but you're going to have to listen." In my head, that sounded reasonable, but he got mad and yelled, "You have to let me play! My mom said you would!" And honestly, we were all kinda floored. One of the guys jumped in and tried to explain that his mom should have asked first, and it's not nice to demand to be part of something, and the guy just yells, "Stop talking to me like that! Let me play or else!" I suggested we pack it up and continue next week since we'd already been playing for about 3 hours, and none of us wanted to deal with this. Big Dude yells that we can't, that we have to let him play, or else, and at this point, we're all mostly ignoring him and making plans for next session. This infuriates Big Man, and he grabs the bag of the girl he had been leering over and just yeets it across the room, shouting that we can't go because we have to let him play. It's at this point that the owner comes over and is confused and concerned. I explain the situation, and Big Guy interrupts yelling that we have to let him play because his mom said we have to. Owner apologizes to us and tells Big Man he's going to have to leave. Cute giant man flailing and throwing a temper tantrum while trying to call his mommy. Everyone was really uncomfortable and the place cleared out quick smart. Mommy shows up in like 5 minutes and goes right past her blubbering, chuffing, angry son to one of the employees and demands to know what happened. Owner cuts in and explains that her son caused a disturbance and was menacing and harassing some customers, and then threw a temper tantrum. Also informed her police had been called. She goes off. My son just wanted to play a game with his friends. Why are you being mean to my son? Just give him what he wants. Pretty much any and every excuse you could think why a grown man should be allowed to act like a petulant child. I left before the cops showed up, but I heard a bunch of interesting stuff from the owner. Apparently Big Man wasn't special needs or disabled in any way, officially. He was, apparently, a normal and functional member of society with no mental health issues, and Mom had previous run-ins with local businesses and police for dumping him places for extended periods of time and him causing trouble. Neither were arrested, but apparently they were both told not to come back to the premises. I remember asking around, finding out that the same guy was banned from pretty much every 40k and MTG event in a 30-mile radius because his behavior was well known. OP, I like how you put that he's officially not special needs or disabled, because I have a hard time believing that someone would act like that and that this grown-ass man would ask his mommy for permission and then say that you had to do what his mommy said and not have some kind of special need. Unless he's just been coddled to the point of being the world's ultimate man-child. I used to play Hero Clicks with a friend of mine at a local cafe where one of our friends was a barista, and we just would set up at a table, we'd play a few rounds and whatnot. Sometimes people would ask us what we were doing, but nobody ever demanded to come and play with us. In all honesty, if I had to guess, this guy saw what he saw as a pretty girl and wanted to get to know that pretty girl by playing the game that she was playing. What a total douche neckbeard. Kudos, though, for not letting this guy intimidate you. I'm sure his impressive size is intimidating, and he has used that to get his way many times, and good for you for not giving in. Our next tale is from Delusional Turtle and is entitled, My GM is Holding My Backstory Hostage. Last session, my PC died during a TPK in a way I'm still royally salty about. I decided to channel that negativity into creating the edgiest, functional character I could come up with. Enter my Oath of Vengeance Paladin, and honestly, I'm having way more fun with him than I thought I would. Now don't get me wrong, the backstory I wrote is by no means great, but it is exactly what I need for my character. But there is one aspect of it I am proud of and very excited to apply in roleplay, which I pointed out to my DM after he got over his initial groans. He immediately perked up and was like, "If I let you keep your backstory," which confused me. There was no reason for him to ask me to rewrite my little paragraph. It gives me no unwarranted advantage or unrealistic heroic feat in my past. Just pure edge for my paladin and a lot of joy for me. Apparently the issue lays in the latter. He then declared that the only way for me to keep my backstory is if I find a way to get the new party to unite, which given the current circumstances in the campaign and my co-players' tendencies to be difficult, he's not joking, and after some prodding on why he would do that to me, he admitted that it is payback for something I did to him last week IRL. So basically, he is on a vindictive power trip. We are about to play the next session, and I might just blur out my backstory as soon as possible instead of waiting for the most appropriate moment for a dramatic monologue. He is also mispronouncing my paladin's name on purpose. Opie, it sounds like your turtle might be suffering from delusions of grandeur. You and your DM both sound like jerks to me in this. Now, I will admit I have a certain lack of fondness for edgy characters, but at the same time, it just sounds like you two don't really get along, and that you kind of made this new character just to stick it to your DM for killing your last character. Your DM is sticking it to you over something you did in real life, so it just sounds like you two are more frenemies than friend, if I read this right, and you're both just trying to get under each other's skin, and you need to fucking stop it. The real treasure is the friends we make along the way, but with friends like these, who needs enemies? Alright guys, I think we got time for one more story, and this one is from Dromon the Dragon, and it's entitled, D&D Player Accuses Everyone of Being a Pedo in Order to Justify Random Acts of Murder. I am my friend group's forever DM. About 6 months ago, a friend moved back to town after graduating college. This meant that the group were all in the same place for the first time since high school, which was pre-pandemic. We never really got into online D&D, so with everyone back in town, we decided to have another campaign. The returning friend rolled up a human rogue. The other relevant player would roll up a kobold cleric, and I, being a bit tired of DMing, ended up playing a half-elf sorcerer. Oh, you got to play? Who was DMing? It's the dream of the forever DMs to get to just play in a campaign every once in a while. Apparently my cousin is starting up a campaign next year, and he wants me to play in it, and I'm really hoping that comes together. When the party met in the classic town tavern intro scene to meet a knight's captain to get their first intro quest to get them to at least level 2, right off the bat, the human rogue sees the kobold cleric and says, "I didn't know this job involved a damn priest." Kobold explained that he's not a priest in the traditional sense, but an adventurer who met a god who grants him powers. Rogue decided to let this go for now, but made it clear that he was watching him and his phony baloney guides. So the party finished their intro quest and decided to head to the coastal city-states to find out why monster activity is increasing, and get paid handsomely to kill them. When they got to the nearest coastal city, they were granted by the city's grand priest who is leading the city after the royal family was killed by a lich. Rogue ignored everything that was just explained and said, "Why the fuck did they allow a fucking priest to run the city?" The party and the priest tried to calm him down, and he said, "If you cross me, holy man, I'll send you to meet the gods you love so much." When the priest then took us to his temple to unveil a secret dungeon where a magic sword that once belonged to the lich lied, Rogue said, "I bet you there's a trove of kids down in that dungeon. We are dealing with a priest after all." The priest took offense to the allegations and told them that he isn't hiding the dungeon. He can go investigate it himself if he so wants. Rogue said, "Why, so you can kill us and keep your filthy secrets, you pedophile?" We were all like, what the fuck? And before we could respond, he said, "I used sneak attack to kill that filthy pedophile priest." We all begged him to stand down, but it was too late. We were now locked in battle with the Grand Priest and his Knights Order, homebrewed paladins. Keep in mind, we were all still level 2. The first 2 rounds made it abundantly clear that we were going to lose. We ended up fleeing the encounter, and one of the party members died in the process. Cleric then lays into him, and the rest of the party agree and freak out that we are now fugitives and will likely have to watch our backs. Rogue then lambasts us for siding with a cleric and accuses him of being one and the same with the Grand Priest. He backs down when he realizes that the rest of the party stands with the cleric, but he does say, "You had better watch yourself, holy man." We end up meeting our dead party member's new character, a ranger, and fleeing into a forest and getting surrounded by a group of orcs. They took us to their shaman, a half-orc, and a really interesting character who we are able to reason with. Turns out he has been working to discover the secret of the Lich's Well. He invites us to a feast so that we can make alternative plans. Then, at the feast, as we get seated, Rogue demands to roll perception. He says that, "This feels suspicious. He's probably setting us up to get killed Red Wedding style." When he rolls a nat 1, DM says you don't notice anything. Despite this, once the shaman shows up, Rogue says, "I jump on the table and throw a surprise dagger in that fucking orc shaman's neck." The party says, "Can we just stop him?" But unfortunately, it's sneak attack, so we can do nothing as he murders our only ally except beg him not to out of game and ask him why. We remind him that he failed his perception check, so even if he was sus, he wasn't, his character would have no ability to know it. But he just responds, "He's an orc, and orcs are by definition savages who will rape, pillage, and murder anyone they can, especially given the fact that he's a shaman, which is basically a priest for uncivilized savages." Dude, what did this priest in your real life do to you? And why haven't you gotten therapy? D&D is not therapy, alright? As much as people might try to work through their trauma through it, it is not therapy. And we all know what priests do to kids. My character would never stand for that. We all groan and roll our eyes, and he says, "I attack and show no mercy. All the savages must die." He unfortunately rolls a crit, which kills the orc shaman, who was level 1. The party in-game freaked out and attempted to tackle him, but it was no use. The orc tribe wouldn't back down, so we had to flee, take a shitload of opportunity attacks, and get 3 other players killed. Now it was just me, cleric, and rogue. Once we escaped, we told him that he had gone too far and that he needed to face consequences for his actions. Cleric told him that he must repent of his grave immoral behavior, and Rogue just couldn't help himself and said, "Silence, kid fucker!" and attacked him. I immediately joined in to help Cleric, and as the other 3 players rolled up their characters, they jumped into the fight against Rogue as they finished their character sheets, to which Rogue accused them of metagaming. But they just laughed and basically said in the most ironic way, "It's what my character would do! We are bounty hunters, and you are a wanted man, my murderous friend!" But Rogue somehow ended up escaping, and DM unironically said, "Ooh, I've always wanted to run a split party." Yikes. And that's where we are right now. I have no idea how DM is going to run a split party with one renegade party member on his own murdering religious figures, but on the bright side, at least he's not with us anymore, and we can now hopefully actually progress through the story without him being with us or rolling up another edgelord. TLDR, player accuses some random people of being pedos and kills them. He has killed a grand priest, an orc shaman, and nearly killed the party's cleric. He is now a fugitive. Edit. Removed a confusing line that gave people the impression that I was DMing this game. I am not. I did pick up on the fact that you were not DMing when you said you rolled up a character because you were tired of DMing. So seeing as I was reading the edited version of this, whatever edit you made, it worked. I will say, this guy sounds like an awful player, and you probably were all better off having him away than being in town. Also, this guy who's taken over DMing for you, sounds like he might also be kind of problematic. I kept wondering why he wasn't having a talk with edgelord or things like that, but, you know, he always has wanted to run a split party, so I figure he's almost as much of a problem as Rogue, and unfortunately, this is kind of stereotypical of how people who roll up rogues are known to play, which is why I have a prejudice against rogues. Not everybody plays an edgelord, but it seems like there's 2 ways to play a rogue. Either you're an edgelord who murders or steals everything, or you're playing like a lawful good one who has the ability to do all this stuff, but is almost a joke doesn't. Actually, I think if I was going to play a rogue, which I probably never will do, I would take the stealthy approach, but it would be that he is a noble with delusions of grandeur, that he's like some big-time hero, but whenever he gets into an actual fight, he becomes pretty much terrified and will only attack from a distance and from the shadows because he's too fucking scared to do it up close and personal. So him sneaking around is just cowardice, and I'd ask the DM to play off his sneak attack damage as he got lucky because he ran away and hid and the guy didn't know he was there. But again, I'll probably never play a rogue myself. And that's going to be our video, guys. Congratulations to our winner of Firefly. So be sure to reach out to me within the next 7 days so that I can get him sent over to you. And everyone else, if you could be so kind as to tell me, how do you feel about the switch up that I've started doing my miscellaneous video on Wednesday and my Lost Media video on Saturday? How do you feel about it? Do you like it? Do you want me to switch back? Please leave your comment on how you feel about the new posting schedule in the comments. As always, everybody, thank you so much for being here. If you want to support the channel, of course, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we get these videos out to as many people as we can. Also, check the links. Maybe buy a mini. Hey, if you're feeling really generous, I also have my Cool Stuff Inc. wishlist on there. You can buy me a mini. I also have Patreon, there is the thanks button, there are channel memberships, but again, the best thing you can do above all else is show up and watch the next video. Videos are posted on Wednesdays and on Saturdays every week. So until the next one, I'm Mr. Sean, this is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.